We go again. We go again. Wow. What a fucking disaster. Well, hello again, and welcome to this Thursday's Movie News, this time with sound from the very start, and throughout, hopefully, for the entire show. I will try not mute. There was a fucking disaster of an initial stream, where I spoke for 6 minutes and then muted myself for the next 7 minutes, and missed everything I was speaking about. So, let's not fuck about, let's get right back into it. Headline here, speak about movie news incidentally, the headline here is all about Chloé Zhao and her wanting to make the Eternals movie very different. She's been out speaking about Jack Kirby being an inspiration. Kevin Feige's been out speaking about her filming techniques, her stylistic uniqueness as a director, and what that's going to bring to this movie, the next big blockbuster movie for Disney in terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is absolutely key, this movie, for the future. It's going to, I think, set up the likes of Fantastic Four and stuff like that, the way it's exploring the very beginning of this universe, 7,000 years of storytelling, the human condition condensed within. This is going to be a key movie for the future of Phase 4 and beyond, and they have to get it absolutely spot on. And I can't think of a better director to do it than Chloé Zhao, an Academy Award winning director. There cannot be many Academy Award winning directors currently doing Marvel projects and previously being involved in Marvel projects. She is within a unique company of, I think, maybe one. Perhaps there is a couple, but I couldn't find it in my initial searches for Academy Award winning directors involved with Marvel projects. So I understand why Kevin has been bound to her in terms of what she wants, in terms of practical shots, in terms of just little inspirational touches with the genre and stuff like that, mixing up and doing things different with this, because she is an Academy Award winning director and they know what they have got with her, so they will want to make her life easy. And look, I says before, I touched upon it, I don't know if it made it before I muted, but Marvel in the main have been very, very, very successful in picking out some really good talent. In terms of directors, they've picked the likes of Taika Waititi out. He had a core cult following, but now they've pushed him into the mainstream. Of course, he'd have done it himself anyway with the likes of Taika Waititi, the likes of Jojo Rabbit. What's happened to my can of juice, incidentally? Fuck me. He would have done it anyway, because he's just that kind of guy. He's got that personality. He's great to watch off the screen, and his movies are infinitely entertaining to watch on the actual screen itself, so he would have made a success of it anyway. Then you've got the likes of the Russos in there, you've got the likes of these other directors they've picked out, up and coming directors. Up until the choice of Sam Raimi for Multiverse of Madness, we have not seen an established director sitting in a chair for Marvel, so they have been picking very well, these up and coming directors, and no less so with Chloé Zhao. So let's get into it again. Fuck me, let's do it again. Chloé has been out speaking about Eternals, and she's been saying this. She spoke to Variety with Feige after her historic win for obviously Best Picture and Best Director for The Great Nomadland, working alongside Frances McDormand. She had this to say. This was Feige that had this to say, and actually I had to keep saying, the dog's farted, Jesus Christ, why do I keep inviting them into this room for shows? I had to keep saying this is right out of a camera, there's no VFX work to this at all, because it was a beautiful sunset with perfect waves and mist coming up from this giant cliff side. Really impressive stuff. He says this to Disney executives after showing them a cut of the movie. Now, I've spoke about this movie before. By all accounts, it is not finished yet. We had the two sort of editors. It was editors who are working with Chloé Zhao. They put together a form of this movie. It may even have been the form that these Disney executives had glanced their eyeballs upon. But they says that Zhao was busy promoting Nomadland, busy picking up Academy Awards, and that she was going to sit down and work with them as a team and make the final cut herself. And I bowed to her, because it's her movie and she has absolutely got the right to make the final say on what is the cut that best represents her vision of the movie. But the fact he's showed this initial cut and he's waxing lyrical, as I did say before, I may have been muted when I said it, bodes very well for this movie. It bodes well that a guy who's seen a wide variety of brilliance in this cinematic universe, who's widely respected in Hollywood as a producer, in fact he's waxing lyrically about one scene, tells me there is something special in this movie from Chloé. He went on to say this: Chloé was really fighting for practical locations. That excites me as well. I says that before. That was before the movie gonk came in and says that it was muted in YouTube. Excites me that she's fighting for practical effects. I am a huge fan of Christopher Nolan, the poster boy for practical effects, not using CGI and blue screen, green screen, whatever you're using for the sake of it. He utilises visual effects just to enhance what is already there, and that really just rubs off well on the actors around about him, because they are live on a set with living, breathing things they can touch. It enhances their performance, it imbues them with a little bit more energy. I'm going to be speaking about Ewan McGregor and a topic, maybe 2 topics along, and he's speaking about the drab dreariness of working on the prequels for George Lucas. He was pioneering technology, but it was fucking god-awful boring to work on these sets. Well, Christopher Nolan's he's the yin to the yang of that. And it looks like Zhao is also a proponent of practical shots, practical locations. And that's going to bode well for this huge cast, because they're going to rub off on that. They're going to have a great time. It's going to manifest itself in the performance, hopefully. He continued though, and he says, oh, that is not just what she wanted to bring to Marvel. This is a signature style. And look, I says that before as well. She has a very unique signature style. As I did say, great at cherry picking these directors, these very different directors. It'll be interesting to see if that transitions over to the Marvel movies, because they are different beasts to the Nomadland kind of movies. More introspective, quiet movies. Independent, small budget movies. Big Marvel, bombastic, 7,000 year fucking long story. Different beast. It'll be interesting to see how it transitions. By all accounts, Taika Waititi's style transitioned very nicely over to Ragnarok. It will transition very nicely into Thor Love and Thunder 2. So we have a precedent for these zany different directors making the jump over to big blockbuster movies and making it work. So I am absolutely convinced that she will transition her style very nicely over to this bigger stage. And I'm convinced that with this 7,000 year story of humanity, our place in the cosmos, she is the perfect director to handle that story. No one can do that story better than her, I feel, and that's why she's been picked for the job. And they have absolutely been vindicated with that double Oscar win the other night. They have been vindicated in their choice, because we have seen what she can do with Human Condition with Frances McDormand. So I'm convinced she'll make it work in this as well. This is what Chloé had to say though. Jack Kirby and his imagination, his incredible work, is really the foundation of it. On top of that, there is what Marvel Studios has built. It's this incredible journey. Can't speak, I nearly had a stroke there. They have going on. And then on top of that is me as a fan of the MCU. And then as me as a fan of the genre, but also growing up with sci-fi, manga, fantasy films, and how we can have this melting pot and cook up something that may just taste a little different. It was just an exciting thing all of us went in wanting to do. We'll see. I said this before, I'm not entirely sure what that we'll see means. It may have been in terms of can they make it a success. I think they can make it a success. We have precedent before in the comic book genre, if that is even a genre within the action genre. Let's just see how many times I can say genre. We have a precedent, whatever way you want to fucking pronounce it, in doing these sort of different takes on the classic comic book movies. James Mangold done it with obviously Logan. It was a huge success. It was a gritty, dark tale. It was a sort of western. We had a dementia story in there, which the great Patrick Stewart done an amazing job in, and he should have been nominated for an Oscar for that performance. It was a disgrace that didn't happen. He done something different with this genre. He changed it up. It was successful financially and critically. Few people would disagree with that. Then you have Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, Tim Miller. They done something very different with a comic book movie too, breaking the fourth wall, lots of swearing, which is right up my street. Violence, just stupid violence that's watchable by kids, him getting decapitated and things like that. They done something different with that, and it was hugely successful financially and critically. So we have got precedent for doing something different with the genre, making genres within genres, exploring different vibes within these movies, and them working very well. But as a little, caveat to that, we do have the experience of Rian Johnson over at Star Wars, another indie kind of director, hugely successful for the likes of Brick and Looper, subsequently successful with Knives Out, doing something very different with Star Wars, exploring different avenues within an established universe, and making a complete fucking pig's ear of it. There was elements within the movie that worked well. the forced FaceTime, and I really enjoyed that. There was elements stylistically, visually, that popped. I still maintain Last Jedi is the most visually impressive Star Wars movie ever put to film. But it was a disaster of a story. He was experimenting too much. He didn't respect what had came before, the legacy characters, the legacy material, and it all crumbled under expectancy from the fan base, under what they wanted to happen with Luke Skywalker. So that would be my one little warning to Chloé. She'll not listen to me, I'm a fucking nobody on the internet. Respect what came before, balance it nicely with what you want to do, the little manga fantasy things you want to inject into this. Balance it and there will be success, but disrespect the core material at your absolute mercy. But look man, I'm convinced you'll get it right. I'm absolutely excited for this movie. I cannot wait to see it, man. I cannot wait to see this very different exploration of 7,000 years of storytelling, of the human condition, with all of these amazing actors, A-list actors who want to get involved in comic book movies. That would never have happened 10 years ago. It shows you how the game has changed. And we're getting different zany directors coming in to do it. We have not, as I keep saying, I'm going to repeat myself, seen an established director until Sam Raimi came in, and it's been a success. Could argue Kenneth Branagh. This guy was doing Shakespearean movies in the 1990s. He done Thor. It was good. I enjoyed the first Thor. But in the main, they've picked these sort of zany, different directors, and it's been an absolute success for them. So hopefully it will be the exact same for Chloé Zhao and the Eternals. Without repeating myself one more time, this movie is absolutely key moving forward. They are going more cosmic, and they absolutely need these characters to pop off, man, this movie to pop off. And I think they've made an inspirational choice with that director, and it will be a success. Staying within the realms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, though a slightly shorter topic, I hope. Speaking about one of my favourite modern day directors, the great Taika Waititi. I love this fucking guy. I think he's dynamite. He's just a great watch in every way. His clothes are amazing. He's just an absolute dynamite human being. And I love what he done with Ragnarok. It was almost opening, I don't know what you'd call it, freeing. There's the word, freeing for Chris Hemsworth, a guy who was getting bored with the character and the stuffiness of the character. He allowed him some freedom in the performance. He allowed him to ad-lib things in. He brought in Jeff Goldblum, a guy who is a fucking jazz pianist now. And it worked tremendously for the movie. Everything this guy touches is gold. And he is touching some Mandalorian technology. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then go and watch the behind the scenes of the first Mandalorian season, and you will see that Jon Favreau has crafted, I don't know if he's crafted it, but he is the sort of brainchild of it, something quite special that, again, not quite Christopher Nolan on set, on practical locations, Chloé Zhao-esque as well, clearly, in terms of going and doing something actually living, breathing. But it's the next best thing. It's the sort of evolution of the George Lucas blue screen of death. Fucking absolute dying on the set with boredom. It is the evolution of that. It's a big fucking screen, essentially. I keep swearing, I don't know why. It's a big screen that envelops the actor, and it transports you to the world that you are trying to create in Star Wars and Marvel in this case. And it really lends the performance. It lends something to the actors in their performance, because they can actually see, and it's tangible. They can see what they're acting with. They're going to be doing this on Thor Love and... They're not going to be doing it on Thor Love and Thunder. They are currently doing it on Thor Love and Thunder. They are using ILM's Stagecraft LED sets for the very first time on a sort of movie scale, I want to say. We've seen it on a Disney Plus TV scale. And look, it just confirms again, doesn't it, that these Disney Plus TV shows are very much big budget experiences. They are not losing anything tangible. When they make these TV shows, they are very much using the same stuff they use on these big blockbuster movie sets. The same actors, the same producers, the same writers, the same directors, the same technology. And I'm very excited to see how Taika utilises this. It's essentially came from an Instagram post. He's working, I think, with his two kids. He does his usual trademark joke, where he says, "Sweet photos of me tenderly criticising my 5-year-old's performance and telling her where she went wrong in the last take and the aftermath." And in the background, you can see this technology. You can see the ILM Stagecraft LED technology, which was used so well in The Mandalorian. I can see rocks. I don't know what the fuck's going on in this scene, but needless to say, it is a very innovative technology that Jon Favreau and ILM have created out of nothing. And I don't know what more to say about it other than to say I'm very excited about this movie and how they're going to use this technology to aid the performances of the likes of Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth, all of the gang, presumably Jeff Goldblum as well. He's loitering, if I can speak, around, Sydney. So he must be in it too. Just excited to see the technology getting up to big time. And this is why, really, because I'm going to move on to the next topic and why it's so important to make the experience entertaining. And I don't know, intuitive, is that the right word? I don't know. Just a fucking experience for the actors in a sense. It's good to make it fun for the actors, because Ewan McGregor, fellow Scotsman, has been out, and he's got a bastardised English, incidentally. It's even more bastardised than what I'm speaking. He's been out speaking about the upcoming Obi Wan Kenobi TV show, and as an aside, his disappointment in how the prequels panned out, how they were ultimately universally disliked, and I'm going to get into that as well, why that's not technically true. And the connection is there. He speaks about his boredom on the set and how it was really, not very inspirational. But this is what he's had to say. Someone asked him if Luke Skywalker could make a cameo in this Obi-Wan TV show. It'd be almost blasphemous not to have Luke Skywalker in this TV show. He is acting as a guardian on Tatooine, looking over the young Luke Skywalker, almost mentoring him from afar. So if he's not there, then it's really strange, I have to say. And he says that's very possible. And I'm trying to find the quote that he actually... there you go, there it's there. Asked by the Hollywood Reporter whether he'd done screen tests with a younger incarnation of Mark Hamill's character. McGregor grinned as he replied, "That's very possible. I don't know." We know that Ewan's a very good liar, because Ewan was getting asked about an Obi-Wan TV show for a long, long time, and he kept stum. He didn't give the game away, but secretly he was working with Lucasfilm and Disney and making an Obi-Wan TV show. So we know he's a good liar. He's not even trying to lie here. He's grinning, which means that he's very much going to be appearing, and that's happy days for me. I can't get enough of Luke Skywalker, one of the great cinematic characters conjured up by the equally great George Lucas. But look, this is what he also had to say. Elsewhere in the new interview, the actor reflected on the bad reception of the Star Wars prequels. Not true. Admitting that true to an extent, but not completely true. It wasn't universally disliked by everyone, which Ewan's about to say. And how he was disappointed by the way they were universally panned. They weren't. It was hard. They didn't get well received. That was quite difficult. They were universally not very much liked. He went on to say this: George loves technology and loves pushing it into that realm. He wanted more and more control over what we see in the background. After 3 or 4 months of that, it just gets really tedious, especially when the scenes are, I don't want to be rude, but it's not Shakespeare. That's not something to dig into the dialogue that can satisfy. That's not something to dig into the dialogue. I don't know if I read that right. I clearly did. That can satisfy you when there's no environment there. It was quite hard to do, and it is. It must be horrendous, and he'd done it recently for Christopher Robin too. He was acting to tennis balls and stuff like that. It must be hard for the actor to get himself up for the performance when there's nothing there. It's just a sea of blue or green. It's not very inspirational. It doesn't lend to the performance, and you see how that makes the Nolan movies pop, because the actors are there, they're experiencing it, they want to work for this guy. It must have been the exact opposite for George Lucas and those actors in the early 2000s with those Star Wars prequels. It must have been a nightmare, and that is why, lending back into that previous topic, this new technology, this innovation from ILM and presumably Jon Favreau, why it's so good for the actors, why it will become a mainstay hopefully for other studios if Disney don't want to hoard it, if they maybe sell it out or rent it out at an expense to the other studios. This will help just innovate that blue screen experience, and maybe even the likes of Nolan will then want to work with something like that, because it's not just soulless. But getting on to, I'm meant to be speaking about Luke Skywalker here. I'm excited about Luke making a cameo in the upcoming Obi-Wan. I hope he does. I don't know what form it's going to be. They're going to have to get the casting absolutely bang on. Well, they don't. It's a little kid. It'll be in and out. It's about Obi-Wan. It's not about Luke. But it'll be nice to see that character back anyway. About this whole universally loathed nonsense, growing up with these movies, I grew up with the original movies in the 1990s. I'm 32. I loved the original movies. They were special. I was still young to appreciate the brilliance of George Lucas's imagination with the prequels. They weren't great, the dialogue wasn't great, but the worlds that he crafted, the likes of Felucia, the likes of Geonosis, Camino, inspirational worlds. The guy's got a great mind. He can world build, and the overarching story was very, very good. It was just the dialogue and what they'd done with the actors. He nearly killed Hayden Christensen's career. But they weren't universally hated. I enjoyed those movies growing up as a kid. I loved the likes of Count Dooku, the great Christopher Lee in there. There was some colourful characters popped up in these movies. Jango Fett had lots more to do than Boba Fett ever did. He was fucking set dressing in the original movies. So they weren't universally hated, because I didn't hate them, so that means they're not universal. And I think, looking back now in hindsight, people are watching these sequel trilogies, seeing how fucking bad they are, I should say, or were, it's past tense now, and they're appreciating these prequels more and more and more in terms of what he was trying to accomplish. It failed, but there's still elements that are enjoyable. Stephen, fellow movie burner, watched The Attack of the Clones fairly recently, and he admits it's a shite movie, but there is watchable stuff still within that. But look, I'm going to move on, man. There's a topic getting cut, incidentally. I'm not speaking about the James Gunn thing. I was going to speak about James Gunn almost getting, I don't know what the word is, it's completely left my mind, groomed by Warner Brothers after he left Disney. It was creepy, they were keen, but I'm not speaking about that. I'm speaking about this. Black Panther 2 has been reshaped to honour Chadwick Boseman. This is coming from Lupita and Nyong'o, a fellow Academy Award winner. We may not have many Academy Award winning directors on the Marvel stuff, but we certainly have a lot of Academy Award winning actors who have been involved. It's live, it's live, it's definitely live. Sadly, it's live. We used to do pre-recorded stuff in Premiere, it was fucking shite, it wasn't great. So it's definitely live and recorded, yes. It's definitely live, it's not recorded, I should say. I wouldn't make these mistakes if it was recorded. Yeah, Lupita has been out speaking about the upcoming Black Panther 2. And she's had this to say. This puts the kibosh actually into the whole recasting nonsense that was going about. People creating petitions, wanting to get T'Challa recasted, want to recast the late great Chadwick Boseman. I was firmly against it. I says I didn't want it. It was an absolute disgrace to his memory. People were coming in and commenting saying they were for it. That's absolutely fine. You're entitled to your opinion, but it's fucking wrong. This is what Lupita had to say. And his idea, the way Ryan Coogler, I presume she's speaking about, the way which he has reshaped the second movie is so respectful of the loss we've all experienced as a cast and as a world. It feels spiritually and emotionally correct to do this. You can't just stop Black Panther, the series, the movies, because Chadwick's passed away. You have to continue on the guy's memory. Carry the character on in a spiritual way, but you don't carry the character on in a living, breathing way for a different actor. That's disgraceful. It's wrong. And hopefully what I do look forward to is getting back together and honouring what he started with us and holding his light through it. And because he left us a lot of light that we are still going to be bathing in, I know that for sure. I'm not keen on the last bit of sort of whole world in your hands, kumbaya stuff, but because I'm not very religious, to be honest. But I firmly believe his energy will live on. I firmly believe his inspiration, which touched many hearts and many people throughout the world, will live on. He will live on in the memory of many people. He was a great, great man. And I have full confidence that Ryan Coogler, a man who worked with him closely, will get that right. Will get the handling of the characters passing right, of the actors passing right. I've got something fine in front of me. I don't know what it is. And I'm sure he will handle the legacy of the character and the future of this franchise with great tenderness, which is required. And the fact that they're not going to recast, by the looks of it, I'm assuming it's not going to be a recast, and it looks as though it is going to be, something that's going to hopefully better than what fucking J.J. Abrams done in The Rise of Skywalker with Carrie Fisher, trying to insert her in, even though she wasn't there. Hopefully it'll be something better than that. Hopefully we'll get the balance right. And they're not recasting, so I'm happy with that. That's why I flung it in a sense. Just to kibosh the whole recasting push. It's not going to happen, and I'm glad. You don't recast a character like that, man. Come on. Synonymous. It's different if it's Wolverine and he's been in a different franchise. You can recast, even though Hugh Jackman is synonymous with that character. You can recast that because it's a different variant, and he's still living and breathing, and he will give his blessing. It's different with Luke Skywalker, because he is too old to play the character now. He's still living and breathing. He can give his consent. It's different with something else. I don't know, something that's getting recast. this is different because he's he's no longer with us, and he gave so much to that character, and he is not here to give his blessing. I mean, his estate can do it, but it's not the same. So I don't want to see it, and they're not going to do it. And thank God. But I'm moving on to the final topic. That's not the topic. I didn't even have a topic up. I hope I did have a topic up. It's all about Paddington. Now, I love the Paddington movies. I truly love what they've accomplished, what Paul King managed to magic up with this world famous character. Little guy, it's been a cartoon 2D character, and he made the jump to animated CGI hybrid very, very well. And recently, I don't know how recently it was, but by all accounts, they found a Citizen Kane review from 80 years ago that was negative, that bumped it down from its perfect 100% rating down to 99%. Now, this got the panty wetters out in force. All of the film enthusiasts were up in arms that they'd found an 80-year-old review that bumped it down 1% and left Paddington 2, not Paddington, Paddington 2, as the number 1 rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, tomatoes, I should say. Tomatoes. Sword, short, schedule. I say tomatoes, not tomatoes. Oh, I did say tomatoes there though, didn't I? Now, it's not the only number 1 rated movie. There's a couple of others in there. I think Toy Story and a couple of other movies are in there as well, rated 100%. But it's something to do with the number of reviews that are currently stored for Paddington 2, which bumps it up to the number 1 spot. Now, as I did say, we've got fucking people writing open letters about this, saying how it's a sign of how flawed the Rotten Tomatoes system is, that they don't legislate for artistic legacy, how the movie is responded to 10, 15, 20, 80 years after it's come out. It's only about raw numbers and how people initially respond to it, so it's an initial knee-jerk reaction review, if you like. Oh, fucking shite. Look, man, this doesn't change Citizen Kane's artistic merit, its legacy. It's still the greatest movie ever put to cinema. That doesn't change it. The fact that it's been bumped down 1% on Rotten Tomatoes, it doesn't make Paddington the greatest fucking movie ever made. Of course it's not. It's a good movie. I think they're actually perfect, incidentally. And they deserve the 100% ratings. And I think if we get a Paddington 3, sans your man King, and it hits off and it's successful, this has a real say in being the greatest trilogy ever put together. It can go toe to toe with Star Wars, with The Lord of the Rings, because they're fucking great movies, man. They really are. I really, really enjoy them. But it's not the greatest movie ever made. But look, it's getting people up in a frantic sort of panty-wetting state anyway. This is what Mr. Kane, no, it's Paddington official accounts talking about Citizen Kane. I do hope that they're acknowledging they're being sporting winners, if you like. Don't know what they've won, but they've won something clearly. I do hope Mr. Kane won't be too upset when he hears I've overtaken him with Rotten Tomatoes. That's Paddington. Paddington's a great character. Heartwarming, man. See that little score from the original one where he's sitting in Paddington Station? That score piece, one of the greatest pieces of cinematic scoring that I've heard, honestly. You should go and listen to that score. It's amazing. Absolute amazing piece of music. They went on to say this, I think this is the actual director, Paul King. It's extremely lovely to be on any list which includes Citizen Kane, but it's obviously quite an eccentric list that goes from Citizen Kane to Paddington 2. But that's the beauty of cinema. It doesn't all have to be drama-driven, heavy movies or something like that. You can have light-hearted, family-friendly fare like this, and it deserves to have its place there too, because cinema is a very eccentric, varied assortment of different things, and they've all got artistic merit and a right to be on the same list. That is why I detest the Oscars and their lack of giving credit to comedies and stuff like that. I mean, it's all fucking cinema. It all deserves to be rated on an even par. Not everything has to be about paraplegics, about the Holocaust. It doesn't, you know what I mean, it doesn't have to be heavy. He's continued to say this, so I'll try not to take it too seriously. Well, you fucking should, because it's a great movie you've made, and I hope you do well with Willy Wonka too. You deserve to bask in this. You made a great movie, mate. So do take it serious. I won't let it go too much to my head and immediately build my Xanadu, I don't know what that means, but I have been cooking up a model just in case. You've heard a lot about this picture, blah 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 blah, greatest movie ever made. I don't even really care about this shit. It's different, in fact, it's bizarre enough to become a museum piece, but it's a sacrifice of simplicity to eccentricity, robs it of distinction, general value, entertainment. Blah 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 blah. Needless to say, Paddington's the greatest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes, if you care about that. I think it's a great movie. I think it deserves its place there amongst the other 100% rated movies. And Citizen Kane, of course, will always be one of the greatest movies ever crafted. And because it's dropped down 1%, because some historical sort of fucking sleuth has found a negative review from nearly a century ago, that does not detract from that movie's brilliance. So stop being a panty waiter, in a sense. That's what I'm going to end the show on. These fucking Zoomers and millennials, my fellow millennials who go out their way to be offended, to find fault in everything. Sit down. Just take a drink. Sit down. And get a grip of yourself, man. Get on the fucking Valium or whatever. But that's going to round the show up. What is your thoughts on the topics I've spoke about if you've managed to get to the end? I think a couple have. God bless you. What do you make about Chloé Zhao's Eternals? What do you make about her vision for this? Practical shooting and a mixture of genres and inspiration. No less the late, great Jack Kirby. If you've got anything to say about that, you can comment below. What do you make about Thor Love and Thunder utilising that, whatever it's called, ILM screen thing? If you've got anything to say about that, you can comment below. What do you make about Kenobi and a potential Luke Skywalker cameo? Black Panther being, doing something special with the memory of Chadwick Boseman, not recasting. And finally, Paddington pipping Citizen Kane to number 1 on Rotten Tomatoes. If you have anything to say at all about those topics, you can comment down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, hit the follow button over on Twitch if you want to see me rambling on about movie news with Stephen as well. Yesterday's show was much better. It was full of fun and laughter. I can't manifest that on my lonesome though, but you'll get that if you subscribe or follow. And if you don't follow and subscribe, that's absolutely fine. I'll not be offended, and I'll bid you farewell. That's a fucking disgrace. What have I done there? Bye bye, guys. Ding dang, walla walla bing bang.